What is up, wrestling fans? It's that time of the week for the FLZ Wrestling Team to talk all things pro wrestling and call it right down the middle. That's right, it's time for this week's edition of 607 TWS, the wrestling show. And we are live on the FLZ YouTube channel, Twitch, and X. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I am your host. My name is Rich. And rejoining me, I should say, in the co-pilot's chair, as she does for pretty much every week, except for when, she has to take a leave. She is the catcher of the Pokemans, because she's got to catch them all. She is the guru of cosplay, but for this show and this show alone, she is the pro grappling connoisseur, the first lady of FLZ Zone and FLZ Zone Wrestling. It is Miss Sammy. How are you, Miss Sammy? It's good to have you back in the chair.
You made me nervous there. It felt like I was only gone 1 week and you forgot who I was, but it is good to be back. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend last week, but I am here. And how are you doing?
You have to forgive me. I've been in a vehicle for in the last 2 days for like 12 hours because of some family stuff. Everything is going fine now, but you have to forgive me. I literally just got home not that many hours ago, and here I am in front of a camera talking pro wrestling. So, hey, just a peek behind the curtain, not blaming anybody, but if you wonder why I might be a little off tonight, that is why. But we have a great show for you, and it's jam-packed right to the brim, so I don't want to waste too much time talking about myself. So, firstly, though, we do have to get the business out of the way. Right above my head, right over here, actually, is the QR code. That will take you over to the place that powers all of this. FanlightZone.com. Comic books and pop culture. We got it for you. Lots of stuff on the way. Tons of great comic book reviews. Nobody does New Comic Book Day like Fanlight Zone, and I mean nobody. And trust me, you're going to want to check all those great comic book reviews as well as other things and more on the way, because as this company grows, we are going to be unveiling more and more things. So stay tuned and check out fanlightzone.com. Also, you saw it at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to throw it back up because some homework assignments. Not only you got to go over to fanlightzone.com, make sure you're following us on all the social medias, especially if you're watching us currently on Twitch or X. Make sure you're following us there as well as all the other great social medias. And most importantly, if you are already watching us on the YouTube channel, you have part of this done. But if not, after the show is over, go over to the YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications so you know whenever we go live or whenever a new video gets put up. And of course, hit the thumbs up to give it a like. Help us conquer the algorithm. Of course, mostly stuff in comic books and pop culture. But with that being said, wrestling is also pop culture. And wrestling is also kind of comic books. By the way, speaking of comic books and wrestling, this was off the topic. But next week, this upcoming Wednesday, the next new comic book day, DC X AEW issue number 2 comes out. So there you go. If you have not been checking that out, a little tag team that we didn't think that, I guess spoiler alert, but the first issue has been out for a month now. So I guess it's not too much of a spoiler, but Mercedes Moné working with Lex Luthor. I feel like that's on brand.
Yeah, that seems pretty accurate. A lot of money there.
Lots of money, lots of money. And the funny part is we're going to be talking about somebody else who likes lots of sacks of money here in a moment. But before we get to that, let's dive right in. Of course, the big thing that happened this past week, WWE Elimination Chamber 2026, coming to you from the first time since 1994, Sammy, from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. That's right. I didn't realize that they haven't ran the United Center since SummerSlam of 94, which was the first major event held in that building. That was a kind of a fun fact to find out. That was completely 125% legit. So interesting there. Super chat, make sure you're dropping in comments, giving what you thought about the event, because we're going to run down the card, break it down. There was only 4 matches, and I'm going to get it out of the way early, Sammy. Once again, the return of the dreaded commercial break screen. I don't know what's worse, wasting your time with a million commercial breaks and things that we've already seen, or the fact that you're admitting that nobody wants to buy the commercial spots on the stream. So therefore, you just have to put that stupid, this is where the commercial would be if we had somebody who was willing to sponsor it.
How are you not even just advertising for yourself? Like, I don't get it. WWE and WCW back in the day, AEW, they went for years without having commercial breaks. for all of these PLEs, pay-per-views, whatever you want to call them. But all of a sudden now you got to do it, and then you can't even do it.
Well, worst of all, not even that. That's not even the worst of it. The worst of it is the fact that when you really boil it down, they are admitting that nobody wants to buy them. Meanwhile, you have everything on the mat. Why aren't those companies just getting commercial spots? Just put the commercial spots for the companies that are on the mat. Once again, since I've been watching New Japan for a very long time, it doesn't bother me to have the advertisements on the mat. But if you have all those advertisements there, doesn't that mean somebody should have ad revenue to allow you to use the other? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. I totally don't know. I don't get
it. Right.
However,
I mean, how is it not just easy marketing for WWE, ESPN, Netflix, the platforms that they're on? They can't just like do it. Like, come on. It's a joke.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's a joke.
It's one of those weird. It's one of those weird things. So getting that out of the way, let's dive in. Let's talk about the event itself. And the opening contest was the women's Elimination Chamber match to determine the number one contender for the WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania 42. This match got 24 minutes. And at the end of the day, your winner and going on to WrestleMania, Mommy herself, the Eradicator, Rhea Ripley, as she defeated Tiffany Stratton, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and Raquel Rodriguez, respectively, to come out as the winner. I will say this. I thought, before I turn it over to you, I will say I thought that this match was fine. I thought that there was some possible star-making performances in this match. I thought Kiana James was allowed to be very impressive in this match. Obviously, Raquel Rodriguez, they continue to push her as the new big sexy, if you will, since she's been under the tutelage of one Kevin Nash. I thought that she did fine in this match. One might even argue that she did a little bit, maybe too much, But, other than that, I thought the match went fine. It's a couple hiccups, but nothing really too terrible. And let's be honest, I don't know if I want to say the right call. Well, for the money-wise and box office-wise, absolutely the 110% the right call. But let's be honest, the obvious call. Sammy, your thoughts on the women's Elimination Chamber match?
It is kind of the obvious call, but it really does make the most sense. We're talking about WrestleMania. We're talking about the show of shows, the King Daddy show of the year. And how can you not go with your biggest stars? We know what they want to do. They want to do Bianca, but she's just not healthy. And it's unfortunate that she's not. So what do? You call an audible and you look for your next biggest star. And who's bigger than Rhea Ripley?
I was going to say, you don't even go to the next biggest star. You go to the biggest star.
Yeah, you just go to the biggest one who didn't really have like the firmest WrestleMania plan. So beyond that, you really summed up the match pretty well. One thing I got to say is kudos to Tiffy. She bumped for everyone and she looked phenomenal doing it, showing that, we kind of take advantage of her a little bit in the manner that we think she's just like this seasoned pro, and she's still fairly young on the roster, especially on the main roster. And she just gets it. And kudos to her.
She's proven she's a worker. She really is. She's proven she's got it. She's got, the it factor, not just the charisma and what gets her over as a star, but the actual in-work and in-ring performance. Of course, like I said, there's no shots. Rhea Ripley, listen, if you need a main event, she is the main event. So it makes all the sense in the world. Jade Cargill, as we know, little, up in the ring. We're going to see tomorrow on SmackDown as Mommy makes her way over to SmackDown to confront her and get us excited for this event. But I just assume that they're going to say, hey, we tried the experiment. Jade failed the experiment. They would have preferred it be Bianca because there's a storyline there with, that was the dream match when Jade came over. But on top of that, we have had story between Bianca and Jade. However, that can't happen. And I don't see her carrying the belt out of Mania. I think that this is just a way to get the belt on the big draw and to start to fix the what we've talked about in the past is the lackluster women's main event scene on SmackDown. The undercard on women's scene on SmackDown is fantastic. You have a lot of up-and-comers, a lot of people doing some big things. They just don't have the person to chase with the prestige. Now, if you make the change and Rhea Ripley becomes your champion, there is the prestige to chase. And I think that that's going to do leaps and bounds. And I'm already going on a limit and saying that that's what we're going to get. But we'll talk about that a little more. We had a couple singles matches to come over, but next up was the first of the two singles matches for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. Your champion, Big Time Bex, the best women's wrestler ever, the man Becky Lynch, taking on, since her return, the sweetheart AJ Lee. 15 minutes and 40 seconds. And at the end of the day, we had and new WWE Intercontinental Champion AJ Lee. To no surprise, I think we all kind of got that was going to be the goal, to move the belt to AJ, the hot hand, especially in Chicago. And the match went fine. I once again start questioning Becky's in-ring. I feel, and I mean, maybe I'm out of line here, but I feel like when Becky wants to work, she's one of the best in the world. But when Becky is slighted or feels slighted or, presumably slighted, it may be, I don't want to say sandbagging, but
yeah, it's tough because that's kind of part of the character that she's playing now, but you can't let that legitimately creep into your actual in-ring work like that, especially for someone with her, with how crisp she's been over the years. So it is tough. The story of this match overall was really strong, but you're right, just the in-ring work was just not as strong as you would like to see from both parties involved.
Yeah. I would have liked to see a little bit better.
And to call it down the middle, AJ hasn't been showing up to work. We were all told that when she was coming back, she was going to be there. She was going to, be involved, and she hasn't really. And that comes into play, ring rust and everything, that doesn't. But at the end of the day, Becky didn't look good in this match either. So this wasn't just an AJ Lee not getting enough reps in thing. Like, Becky didn't look good either.
But is that the issue from AJ Lee not getting enough reps, or just booking standpoint? Because she has been on shows doing run-ins and stopping Natty from beating up, it's just Maxine Dupree. It's interesting to me. You could have probably taken advantage and had her in some matches, and you haven't. So that's kind of on the company once again.
Kind of weird, right?
It is. It is kind of an issue because now, fast forward, I know we're going to be talking about the WrestleMania, Road to WrestleMania update, but like kind of fast forward, she goes on Raw and says, "Hey, listen, it's opened up now, open season challenge. I want opportunity. I want the best competition, yada yada," which is great. I get it, but like all we've seen you do is kind of mix it up with Natty in kind of protecting Maxine Dupree. Is that the way we're going? But that's not, and I mean this with all due respect, because I love Natty. Mm-hmm. But that's not exactly a fresh matchup. That's one of those matchups we got to see in the past when AJ Lee was there, because they both were there at the same time. It's not one of those like interesting, like Bailey is an interesting match, even though yes, Bailey is a vet. Her and AJ Lee didn't have any matches. You know what I mean? Lyra, we've seen, Lyra step up, Io, all these names that we're hearing. And once again, no offense to Natty, who I have the utmost respect for and think she's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. You could say she's a Hall of Famer, not just in the ring, but outside the ring in her training and helping young talent. But like, that's the only storyline we've gotten. And now it looks like we're going to forget about that. Like, it's weird. Once again,
it's very weird. Yeah, no, you're right though. It is very weird because we see it so commonly on the men's side, where that's just the guys just keep kind of trading off. Oh, we're going to go back to feuding with this guy. There's nothing new. Whereas on the women's side, there's just so much room for opportunity, but it's just like, all right, here we go. Here's your chance to do something different. And it's like, well,
yeah. So weird. I know I jumped ahead. That was a little bit of what we would have normally done Road to WrestleMania. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that in a minute as well with everything else that went down. So just throw it in there. Next up, though, we had the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. Your champion, Chicago's own, the Second City Saint himself, the best in the world, CM Punk, taking on the man that you affectionately, or maybe not affectionately, call Finn Balor. But he is Finn Balor, one of the best wrestlers in the world. This match got 20 minutes and 25 seconds. And at the end of the day, to no surprise of anybody, your winner and still the WWE World's Heavyweight Champion, CM Punk. And I said last week on this show, I know, Sammy, you were kind of in and out of it and on the chat, but I said on this show last week that this was kind of like you booked yourself into a corner and there was no good options, because we know it's either got to be clear-cut CM Punk wins. So we go on to the dream match at WrestleMania. I don't even know if you want to call it a dream match, but the clear-cut night 2 main event between him and Roman Reigns. Or we have a fluke win for it to be just a title reign for a short period of time for Punk to only get it back to still end up with the same match. So no matter how you cut it, this was kind of like a weird, crappy catch-22. The match itself was good. I think that a lot of people were comparing it to the first match that they had on Raw, which was better. Let's be honest, the first encounter between Finn and CM Punk was a better match. I think this match, if you didn't have that other match, everybody would be saying still that this was very good. But I think I still have to admit, it was a really good match. It's just that once we saw them have the other match, this one was definitely less than. That's the dangers, as I pointed out, of running something back so quickly. Sammy, what was your thoughts on the World Heavyweight title match?
No, I think you really summed it up very well. Like this was a good match, but when you just ran it back, like 3-4 weeks ago, and that the first match was superior to this one, and that's tough. And we love, trilogies of matches and long-term storytelling and seeing guys really go at it. But when you run it back that quickly, and the match is the same, it's just a title match, there's no stipulations attached to it or anything, it's tough. It's tough to really, not that I would want to see this be like a hardcore match or a ladder match or something like that. I don't need that, but you gotta let things breathe sometimes, and like you said, booked into a corner. So where does Finn Balor go from here?
Well, we kind of know. We'll talk about that in the road to WrestleMania, because there is kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, for him. However, I will say this. I agree with you that we didn't need a ladder match or stuff, but I'm going to have the back-ended comment on it. The only reason we didn't need a ladder match or cage match is because there is no blow-off, because it's 2-0 with a CM Punk. We want to see series of matches when it means something. If this was 1-1, we would want to see the rubber match. I care less about a rubber match because there's no rubber match. CM Punk already took it, unless we're doing best out of 5. And then it gets a little bit, a little more hairy-carry. Like at this point in juncture, I think the only way you can run back Finn Balor versus CM Punk is if you run back the Demon versus CM Punk.
This clearly was just to fill time, and understandably so. There has been some injury concerns and storyline and everything. But at the end of the day, like, this was just to fill time. And yeah,
to be fair, play devil's advocate, I will say this in a positive light. Since I said a negative, I will also say a positive, because there is a positive. Normally, we are in a throwaway season for WWE going into WrestleMania. Normally, you wouldn't have this caliber of a match coming into that time of year, because obviously on the line is the big night 2 main event. So kudos to pulling that trigger.
Yes.
Even though it was kind of book yourself into a corner, at least we got a cool match instead of just the normal throwaway bullshit we get. So give him credit. Last match, because there was only 4 in the card. Well, actually, before that, we're not going to talk a lot about this, because we're going to talk more about this individual next. But we found out what was in the box. Now, before I say this, before we even dive in, I'm going to point out things that I've said for the last couple weeks that I still think rings true right now. And of course, I like to call it down the middle, and I like to call it how I see it, and that's how it should be. So here's the thing. First and foremost, I said this is 2026. What the hell are we doing 1970s/1980s Memphis shit in 2026 and acting like it's a huge deal? Firstly. Yeah. Secondly, we knew, and we all called this, we knew it was Danhausen, but why did we pick Danhausen? Because we said the only way this works at all is if it's a comedic act. It does not work for a serious act. It doesn't, because this is the year 2026. Things like Unreal are out in the world. You want me to believe that Oba Femi is going to come out the box to challenge for a title or something? Like, no, it's just mind-numbingly dumb, right? So you knew it was going to be cheesy, right? Going into this, you knew it was going to be cheesy. So 2026 with an old gimmick that doesn't work. Cheesy factor already there. So my question is, why did the IWC go, ew, it was so cheesy? The setup was cheesy. They acted like after this happened, like the online was killing me. And if you want, anybody in the comments who says to defend yourself, the online was killing me about this, because most of us online weren't surprised it was Danhausen, right? No. That was kind of
the
one
only
of the
thing
big
that made
guesses.
sense.
Last week, we and Ken both agreed that was the lock, was Danhausen. Like, we couldn't think of anybody else that would have been, even a couple weeks ago, me and you, well, it has to be Danhausen because it has to be a comedy act. So it's not like that was something new to the world. And I'm not saying we're geniuses. You just have to put 1 and 1 together. It's always going to equal 2. And so when it happened and was cheesy, first and foremost, Danhausen's character is supposed to be a comedic, cheesy kind of character. Granted, did I like the whole dance and kind of weird? No, because next up the spot on the card. You could have done that in the pre-show. The crowd would have been maybe a little more excited. You're coming off of the World Heavyweight title match. You're just killing time before the main event. Not to mention you're making that poor crowd in Chicago sit. You thought it's bad when we sit through those commercial breaks. They sit through them too. But they're inside the building. You know what I mean? So you've sat through all these, and now you get, and as we've always said, there's a certain amount of the WWE universe who doesn't watch anything outside of WWE. So the initial pop was from like the hardcore fans who know who Danhausen was. And then the boos stemmed from basically even they were like, wow, this is cheesy. And then the other people who didn't know who the hell he was. And they didn't know if they should take him seriously or not. And then, I guess the universe marks, maybe they thought somebody huge was going to come out of that box, but I don't think so. Not thoughts over on Danhausen, because we're going to talk about that in a second. But what is your thoughts on how Danhausen was debuted?
It's weird. And here's my thought on it is that WWE clearly understands the character, but then they also don't. Because debuting him in a cheesy way and debuting him in this manner of like, oh, we're going to make it seem like he's got this big entrance and this big thing and make it kind of corny. That actually makes sense. That does make sense because that very much fills the Danhausen character. However, you went too far with it. Like you did a little too much. And, at some point in the future, I think you and I are going to have to sit down because we're at that point now where we can do a lot of this, which is who had the better debut, which would be in AEW or WWE. And in this case, clearly AEW had the better way to debut Danhausen. So it was just like too much. Like you clearly know how to use the character because we've seen now they do, but this was just like too much.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. I didn't want to dive down that rabbit hole because I do have a couple pieces I want to talk about that. But let's talk about the main event. It was the men's elimination chamber match. Winner gets a shot at the undisputed WWE Championship at WrestleMania 42, currently held by Drew McIntyre. We'll talk about that more in a second. This match got 25 minutes and 20 seconds. At the end of the day, the winner and going to WrestleMania for his shot at trying to become a 15-time champion, the legend, the OG legend killer himself, the Viper, Randy Orton, as he would defeat LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Logan Paul to get there. So, all right. So I thought this match was fine. And I actually thought they did some things very well in this match. First and foremost, I said that Javon Evans was going to impress in this match. He did. I said that Trick Willie was going to impress in this match. He did. I said that this match could cater very well to Logan Paul, and it did. LA Knight, well, he had a misstep, but he got over it. And then Cody and Randy are in there as the vets, right? So there's that. Two big things to me that happened here. And I really liked for the second year in a row, Seth Rollins making a huge impact in the Elimination Chamber. They really turned around us going, what the hell is up with this fake out nonsense masked guys who nobody knows, into going, oh, it was a cool diversion for the actual Monday Night Messiah himself, Seth frickin' Rollins. And so I thought that was really cool. I do think that they took a little bit of chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad there, to steal a phrase. I also did like the finish. I like the fact that we all thought that Cody Rhodes was winning, Drew McIntyre interferes, and we get an RKO in a win for Randy Orton. Now let's go with what I didn't like, is that right after the match, instead of letting it breathe, instead of letting it go, hey, we have this beloved veteran who at this point everybody loves Randy, that we could really get behind for number 15. They couldn't, like a dog to vomit, WWE's bankrupt creative couldn't let us have that moment and instead had to turn the moment back to being about Cody Rhodes, as they had to jump right in and make Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for SmackDown this week. And if they weren't trying to turn Cody Rhodes heel, if they're not actively trying to turn him heel, they are succeeding amazingly well at turning him heel at this point. Sammy, your thoughts?
You remember when, 5 minutes ago when we were talking about CM Punk and Finn Balor and just convolutedness if Finn was to win the title or whatever? Well, that's just what we're getting on SmackDown. That's exactly what we're getting on SmackDown. There is a very real shot, very, very real, high possibility that Cody wins the belt back. So then you get Cody and Randy, which is a huge main event, and there's a ton of story there. Why'd you give the belt to Drew in the first place? You simply could have just had Drew be in the chamber, and he could have been competing for a spot and set up a match against someone for WrestleMania, some sort of a big, bout against the two Titans, like whoever, a Trick Williams, fine, whoever, doesn't matter. Except you had to do this weird back around way to get there. Yeah.
2 words: creative bankrupt.
That's not even bankrupt. That's just creative ridiculousness, stupidity. No wonder why Road Dogg's not there anymore.
Oh, shots fired already. First of all, I will say this: we are not really talking too much about it because we don't know the deets.
We don't know the details.
Most today, whether he was fired, released, contract wasn't renewed, whatever. Road Dogg has parted ways in his creative role with WWE. So, good wishes in his future endeavors, I guess. We just don't have much to talk about. Hopefully by next week there's something, because literally
hopefully
just happened. Some reports say, sorry.
No, I was just say hopefully by next week we get the sign that says Road Dogg is all elite. That way we can get a New Age Outlaws versus Edge and Christian matchup at the next pay-per-view.
No. The next pay-per-view is looking up to be good. We're talking about Revolution later. Just let's calm it down. So yeah, I'm with you on this. To me, I just looked at the match and I'm like, oh, it was a fine match. There were some cool spots in the match. Once again, and then you couldn't help yourself. Like I always say, like a dog to vomit. They can't help themselves. They can't help
you honestly, you want to know what honestly went through my mind when all this happened, and then we get into the rest of the weekend. You start really thinking about it. When is Drew's contract up? Isn't it up this year?
No,
did he resign?
He signed that big. He resigned that huge extension last year. It's like 5 years, lots of money. Yeah, it was last year. Remember they gave him a sword.
But that was like the first thought that went in my mind. I'm like, is he out of there this year? Because then like this makes sense why they would just be screwing him over. But I just don't get it, and I don't like it.
Do you want me? I will take a detour to explain it to you. They don't have faith.
I don't.
They don't have faith. They don't have faith in him as a main eventer. And like a dog to vomit, they will go back to Cody Rhodes so they could have Cody Rhodes in the main event again. And mark my words, if it is Randy and Cody, it will be the night 1 main event instead of having it be the logical Stephanie Vakir versus Liv Morgan match. And then night 2, we will get Punk and Roman, which is the clear cut. And
that is the clear cut main event. Yes.
Clear cut main event of the programming. There you go. That's it. Because they've shown nothing. If they have any balls at all, they'll have Drew McIntyre go over clean on on SmackDown. And then that'll be it for Cody. Cody can go have some undercard match. Take the Brock Lesnar challenge. I don't care.
Yeah, they did show a little bit of cojones with not putting main event Jey Uso in the chamber. That way we didn't have to hear him yeet 16 times throughout the whole thing. And again, I like that. It's fun, but it's a little ridiculous.
But my question to you is, did they do that because they only did that because they had to? Because Bronson Reed got injured legit and Jey Uso wasn't supposed to be in the match. So they had to figure out a way to get Logan Paul into the match to pull off the Seth Rollins bit. And now, instead of being the original match, I'm assuming was Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins. And then they were going to probably switch to Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins. And now we're going to get Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins. And to be honest, that storyline doesn't work so well because Logan Paul and Seth Rollins only shared a cup of tea together in the actual Vision. But because due to injuries, I mean, once again, giving them credit, they're trying to take some chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. I'll give them credit for that. And honestly, I'm excited for a Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins match because I think it'll be very good at WrestleMania. But
True, but they also did just set up the Usos versus the Vision. So then what does Seth do? Have a match with Paul Heyman? I wouldn't put it past him at this point.
I don't think they're going to have him face the Usos. I think we're gonna see some missing there. I don't. Listen, we'll talk. Like I said, we have some speculation on that later. Overall,
Seth versus Brock, because Brock, has to come back and defend the fact that
Heyman
got beat up.
I was assuming it would be Brock and Oba. I mean, that's the money match if you wanted to go with the money match. But hey, I digress. I will say this: let's button up. We're getting way ahead of you're getting us off topic. You come back to the show and you get off topic.
Get
where's
angry
Ken M when I need him? Where's Ken M when I need him? You're the one that's always on time points. Anyway,
he's not angry enough.
putting on an elimination, putting a button on elimination chamber. I'm going to be honest. It was a fine in-ring performance night for the most part. It was very entertaining. Storyline wise, it fell short overall because a lot of predictability, and on top of that, a lot of like, why the hell? With some good moments. Hey, you want to add anything to that, or is that good to sum it up?
This is in terms of Elimination Chamber PLEs. This is just kind of middle of the road. It certainly passes. It doesn't fail, but it's not really overly memorable.
Agreed. So I did say I want to talk about a little more before we dive into before we dive into the road to WrestleMania. And of course, that is Danhausen. He got the point.
He got the
very
point.
Nice, very evil. Signs with the WWE. He did put it on his Demandhausens that he wanted the finger point picture. He got it. Here it is. Of course, I'm coming out here and I'm going to paraphrase something that Ricky Morton put into the world. And this is the only reason I want to talk about this, because I agree with Ricky Morton, and so didn't AJ Styles and a bunch of other people. Ricky Morton basically was like, hey, fans, why do you crap on things? Guys deserve to get to their spot. Okay, cool. It wasn't your cup of tea. You didn't like what happened. You didn't like how it went down. I agree that I didn't like it. Sammy agrees that she didn't like it. But still, you can be happy for Danhausen for getting the sacks of money and, getting signed. Like, there's no, I'm telling you, Danhausen will get through. Danhausen's a great character. We got to see a bit of that on Raw. Raw had a better appearance. I like the him and Adam Pearce. I like how, he's driving them nuts. It looks really cool. You get the Judgment Day stuff. He curses Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio loses. We'll talk about that in a minute. Overall, I thought that it was fun. But a lot of people called it a failure. Now, granted, I will be the first to admit, Sammy, also, you admitted it. We've been talking about it for weeks. This box gimmick was stupid. It was going to be cheesy either way.
It was stupid.
And it was. But Danhausen fit the cheesiness. Was it the right place, right time? Probably not. But you have to make things work. But to hear people say about how much it failed, and then to find out, and you can count me amongst one of these people, because I can tell you I ordered one. WWE shop is sold out of pre-orders, making him the #1 seller of t-shirts for his first ever WWE shirt. What part of failure is that? You have Dave Meltzer saying that he's being paid $11 million a year, which is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee that's not the cost and not the price. But, hey, I don't know where he pulls the numbers out of his ass from. But, his sources say a lot of things. His sources also, stated that Brody King was taken off of TV for political reasons when he was actually just in Australia promoting the show that was coming to Australia. Hey, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, Uncle Dave. And same here. But I do think that he is going to get paid. I think that he's going to get paid. And why? I just said it. When you talk about, we say this all the time, the inconvenient truth that a lot of people like to forget is it's called the wrestling business. And I said this before, that one of the biggest fumbles with Danhausen and AEW was that Tony Khan and AEW left a lot of money on the table because he is a merchandise machine. He is the kind of character that is entertaining and sells merch. He doesn't need to be the world champion. He doesn't even need to be the intercontinental champion. He doesn't need to be any champion at all. He is an attraction to himself. He is the next generation of R-Truth. I understand they're not the same kind of gimmick, but that's that comedy performer that thrives well. R-Truth being the gold standard. You know who else was a gold standard? Santino Marella, who is still a hell of a comedy act. By the way, Santino Marella, one of the toughest mother you-know-whatters in the history of man. The guy's legit tough guy. But we all look at him as a funny dude because that's how great he is at that character. Danhausen is a funny character. It clicked. He has gotten this character. He went from Donovan Danhausen. Look it up if you've never seen it. Just in tights and no paint, no nothing, just wrestling the same super indie style as everybody else, to a Pazuzu horror gimmick, not comedy gimmick, horror gimmick of the Danhausen character, to then morphing that into love that Danhausen, very nice, very evil, sacks of money, calling everything Hausens. The comedy routine we see today, which actually started with him doing the tequila dance, for those of us who have been watching for a long time. And you're telling me you can't print money? Just look at him. How many toys does he already have out? AEW did put a toy out, but he's a ton of toys coming out from the major brothers have put out a ton of toys of Danhausen. And he sells them all. I mean, I have one behind me here. Okay, the lighting isn't good. Sorry, I had to do everything in a rush, but I've shown it before. It's signed to my wife. Sammy actually took the picture. I almost put that picture in of me and Danhausen together when he cursed my wife over camera. So my point stands, like, he's a character that gets it. My wife, and the story behind that is my wife is not a big wrestling fan, but she loves that Danhausen because he's entertaining. So I know that you agree with this. I need to have explained to me how he's a failure already when he's got the highest selling merchandise. And I'm telling you, we saw the tip of the iceberg on Raw of what he brings to the table. He's not gonna be in a main event spot, regardless of what somebody says. He doesn't need to be. He's an entertainer. Your thoughts?
This was honestly, like, it was perfect because they already pivoted and already included the fact that the debut kind of was, a bit of a failure. They already went there. They already made light of it and made fun of it, and you're already moving past it, which is perfectly fine. This is Danhausen in a nutshell. We're going to get a lot of this. I hope that Danhausen floats between all three shows. I hope you see him on Raw one week, and then maybe 2 weeks from now he's on SmackDown, and then maybe he's mixing it up on NXT. I'd love to see him everywhere. Promos with Danhausen and Shawn Michaels, that would be hysterical. Him mixing it up with Ethan Page, or going over to SmackDown and getting involved over there, getting in with anyone on that show. A Chelsea Green. Can you imagine a Danhausen Chelsea Green skit? Money. Absolute money. This guy, you know what? Maybe Uncle Dave is right about the math. Maybe and maybe he's wrong, but also right, where the contract is worth up to that based upon merch sales, because he can get there. Like you said, he's been in the company for what? 4 days? He's already the top merch seller? Like, it's out of control. And it's amazing. In a couple of years, everyone's going to look back at this and be like, okay, I get it. I see why they signed him.
They're going to be selling masks to have his face on it. They're going to be selling teeth because they've already introduced the teeth. Jars of teeth. They're going to probably be candy teeth if they're smart for kids.
If they're smart, it's candy. Yep.
Right. They're going to be selling those. They're going to be selling more shirts. Like, he's going to get over in a way. Is he going to be a main event caliber wrestler? You might see him in a main event as a goof.
As a goof, yeah.
He's going to be the entertainer. And I'm not saying he can't wrestle, but he understands who he is as a performer. Danhausen gets Danhausen, and we're getting Danhausen. And I think
we're going to get that Danhausen cartoon.
Oh, absolutely. I think Danhausen sells, and they know that he makes a lot of money. So I agree with you. The $11 million could be depending upon his royalties from his merch, because he's going to get a lot of sacks of money for his royalties from his merch. And by the way, I can tell you the WrestleMania moment we all deserve this year, before we even get there. Danhausen and R-Truth in the backstage. Make it happen at WrestleMania. That is a WrestleMania moment. Can you imagine the first time they meet each other?
I hope he gets to curse William Regal again, because when he did that in AEW, that was really funny. And if he gets to do it again, that'd be a lot of fun.
and I think it's a really good idea. We are going to talk about WrestleMania, but I want to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and the cursing thing, they're already setting it up to be kind of legit. he cursed Dom. Dom lost. So you're already adding in that lore where it's like, oh wait,
And
when
he
Danhausen
disappeared.
shows up, bad thing can happen. Yeah, he's a Batman. That was funny.
He disappeared. That was good. Like I said, like Raw, even though it was a small appearance, really kind of fixed a lot. That kind of showed you what the Danhausen character is. And it works. That's why I said, yes. Was the debut a failure? Absolutely. It was terrible. It was, but they made fun of it. I mean, he made fun of it even. Like it's the whole way they're going about it. And that's, I think we're going to see more and more of it. And I think that the people who so clearly were saying how much of a failure it was, they're going to eat those words because it is a business and they're going to make a lot of money, of money. Before we talk about the road to WrestleMania, because there's a couple things we want to talk about there before we jump into the AEW talk, right? There was something that last week we did an editorial picking who we thought was going to go into the Hall of Fame. And me and Ken M picked one, I should say tag team, to that we said there was the clear cut. If they didn't do it, they were going to be dumb. They didn't waste any time because they announced this past week that joining the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2026 will be Axe and Smash. Demolition will finally take their spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. Listen, I couldn't be happier about this. I was a huge Demolition fan as a child. I understand that, you know, as I got older, that they were kind of originally supposed to be just a ripoff of the Road Warriors. However, I think that they exceeded and I think they excelled. And I think they were one damn good tag team, especially in their prime. And they did exactly what it is to be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, they had a falling out with the company for years. There was a lawsuit going on with injuries and pay and such, which has since been settled. And since it's been settled, you know, Triple H doing what Triple H does as, you know, a former worker ambassador, and because he's brought other people back in the fold, has brought them back in the fold under Legends contract. They are in the WWE 2K26 game for the first time. Not as creations from the community. We are actually getting Axe and Smash in the game, which is pretty dope. And now they will be WWE Hall of Famers, which is awesome. Once again, as me and Ken point out, I love the fact that the Undertaker is being used as the, you know, if you get a call from the Undertaker or he shows up, you're going in the Hall of Fame. They did that with them. There was a video call between him and them, and he announced that they were going in the Hall of Fame. Super cool. Sammy, your thoughts on Demolition entering the class of 2026 WWE Hall of Fame?
Yeah, an incredibly worthy, you know, accomplishment for Demolition. You know, a team with a lot of WWE history and lore, and obviously, you know, what, you know, situations arise, you end up being, you know, not involved with the company. But I'm glad things were able to work out. I guess my question, really, you know, level of speculation is who gets to induct him? Who does it?
I mean, I mean, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But Mr. Fuji would have been the surefire pick originally. He was their original manager. But I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, we also have to be honest. Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow could be Hall of Famers on their own without those gimmicks. We remember Bill Eadie was one of the best superstars at one point in juncture, amongst a ton of other things, and of course, Barry Darsow. You know, you might know him as the Repo Man. You know, you might, amongst other gimmicks, you know, hole in one Barry Darsow, the what was the Bunkhouse Bully or whatever, the Broad Street Bully. He's done a lot of great gimmicks and like things that, you know, so both of them have had Hall of Fame careers, but I do believe Demolition is an iconic team, and they have one of the most iconic songs of all time, which we will get to hear in the video game and also at the Hall of Fame, and that's awesome on its own. Talking about if people could have Hall of Fame music, theirs would be in the Hall of Fame as well. So
agreed.
I think this is a really good take, and I think that it's awesome that we are getting Demolition in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad that we will get to see them actually inducted and speak and be there in person. So that's always a good thing. So kudos to that, and I'm glad, you know, it's not even one of those times like, hey, we called it. No, it was the right time, and I think that made the most sense, and they didn't drop the ball on it. So give them credit. At least so far, they're not dropping the ball with the Hall of Fame. We'll give them some time.
Well, Danhausen's going to get in this year, so.
Yeah, Danhausen did say he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. We'll see if they get it. All right, let's go to WrestleMania, road to WrestleMania speculation. We got a couple big things to talk about. First and foremost, the big one in the room, you mentioned it already, Dominic Mysterio got cursed by Danhausen, but let's be honest, Dominic Mysterio lost the Intercontinental Championship to Penta on Raw this past week because Finn Balor prevented JD McDonough from interfering in the match due to their little going back and forth. So it looks like we were, I mean, I don't think there's a way around it. We are locked and loaded, probably on the road to WrestleMania. Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor. Finally, the end of the Judgment Day, hopefully. What is your thoughts on these the build here? Finn Balor comes out of a rough situation, losing in a good match to CM Punk, but looks like he's going to be in a key WrestleMania match against Dom Mysterio.
Yeah, yes, and while I do like that, I do kind of wish the Intercontinental title was in play for it, though. But
I don't think it necessarily needs it.
No, it doesn't necessarily need it, but I think it just would have helped just a little bit, especially if Finn Balor was to win and actually get a run with a belt would be helpful, because if Finn Balor coming out winning this doesn't hurt Dom at all in any sort of a way, and Dom winning doesn't really hurt Finn in any sort of way, because Finn doesn't win anything. But anyways, that's besides the point. But Penta is someone who's certainly worthy of a championship. He's been in the company now for just a little over a year now, and definitely worthy of this run, definitely worthy of that spotlight. Hopefully he'll get a very nice, large profile, WrestleMania match as well. But yeah, this will be fun, and the Judgment Day will finally come to an end. I think everyone within it kind of has enough other things to do now, except for maybe JD McDonough, but I'm sure they can figure something out for him real quick.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that there will be a title match. There will be a title on the line at WrestleMania. I think the Mega Championship will be on the line. I think the AAA Mega Championship will be on the line. Finn Balor, as we know, has been working in AAA. And I think that belt will be on the line. I think that, so there will be a belt on the line, in my opinion, unless they choose to take it off him beforehand. But I don't think that the Rey de Reyes winner will get their shot before WrestleMania. So I think Finn Balor could be the clear-cut choice there. And it would showcase the AAA title. A year ago, they made the announcement of buying AAA. You do it this year, and the title's on the line there. I think there's symmetry to that.
It's still just completely just blows my mind that Undertaker helps with booking in Triple H. Wild. Oh, Danhausen can go there and he can mess with that booker.
He's the I was gonna say he's the head booker down there. He's got a little assistance from Shawn Michaels, but he's the head booker down there. It is kind of crazy, isn't it? What a world we live in. What a world we live in. All right. So now let's we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The last big one, of course. If you didn't think that the night 2 main event could get any hotter, oh boy, we had a main event promo segment between Roman Reigns and CM Punk that even before the last line was a damn good promo exchange. Oh man, are you talking about off and running? I mean, there was snipes for snipes. They were going back and forth. I dug it a lot, but of course, what had everybody talking is after Roman Reigns said that he was going to beat CM Punk and bury him and force him into retirement, much like John Cena, even though Roman didn't retire Cena, but whatever. Put him on his retirement tour, if you will. CM Punk taking umbrage to this said, hey, now I'm not just going to beat you, I'm going to bury you, and I'm going to bury you next to your dad. Ooh. Getting personal. Sammy, coming. I know we were already high on this match. It's a clear-cut night 2 main event, but how you feeling about it after Raw?
So this is the second, opportunity for the two to interact, and I think it was pretty clear during the first time, it leaned heavy towards Roman coming out of it looking like the winner of the battle of words. Not that Punk didn't hold his own, like 60-40. In this one, I think it flips. Now Punk looks like the winner of the war of words, and kind of reminded people why, some of his best work is as a heel. He went really low there at the end, and I actually like that, because here's why. First off, if you are going to set up CM Punk to be, a heel at some point, that's going to be a lot of fun. CM Punk's best work is as a heel. So there's that. On top of that, if you look at it from a pure just body of work / where people are at in their careers, can CM Punk really win in a fight against Roman Reigns? No, probably not. Roman's younger, bigger, faster, stronger. Got all that. But what's Punk always done his entire career? He's played the mind games. He's played into the mind games, the psychological side of things. And that's what he's doing here. And what do we know Roman's biggest Achilles heel is? Mind games. Who lives rent-free in his head? Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins could get involved in this in some way around. Why not? So I think it makes perfect sense for him to go that low. And I think it really just added just a little bit more to this. This is very clearly the night 2 main event. Roman is the number 1 guy in the company. Punk and Cody kind of go back and forth for that number 2 spot. So yeah, this is becoming a big money match.
I think coming out of that promo, you just took a bonfire and you just threw like a keg of gasoline into it, and you get a nice big explosion, And I think that's what they're building towards. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. We talked about WrestleMania needing that. To your point, though, I think that yes, I think the CM Punk works better as more edgy, whether you want to call it a heel or whatever. I don't think you can really have him go full heel anymore because he's CM Punk, but he works better edgy. Here's the thing. I think it's also smart money because Roman Reigns is at this point in juncture. I am pretty sure Roman Reigns is unhealable. I know that sounds weird. It's a new term. I don't think you can make Roman the heel. I don't think you can consistently make him a heel anymore. I think we've crossed that bridge. He's in that zone he is now in that rarefied air zone. Like, think about it. Like, I guess you could point to the fact that Cena kind of turned heel, but then think about it. It didn't really work. And I think Roman is in that same zone because Roman is a kind of guy, as we've been watching, the current incarnation becoming the tribal chief, acknowledging him. He has become the guy who transcends wrestling. He is the one guy who so far has kind of kept his word as being able to wrestle and do other things. Because remember, that's what he clearly has stated on multiple occasions with Stephanie McMahon in particular. He had said that he wanted to be the guy. Everybody else left. The Rock left. Cena left. Everybody would leave and they'd be gone for long periods of time. And I get it. He's not a full-time guy. But he still is there. He still comes, he's never left. And he says he plans on never leaving. He plans on doing this until he's ready to hang him up. And I hope he does that. So I think we're at this really weird spot where if you're relying on somebody to get any kind of heat in this match, it has to be Punk. Because Punk can do certain things to get the heat. The crowd will love him at the end of the day and still chant CM Punk and best in the world at him and still sing Cult of Personality. So he'll never truly be a full-on heel. But in that match, I think Punk, especially saying things like he did on Monday, can get the crowd to get more behind Roman than him. And I think that's what they need. They kind of need that moment. It reminds me of Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania 18. Think about it. The crowd's going to go with Hogan, and they did. So The Rock had to be the guy who, think about it. The crowd, he had to do the heel things to get booed. And he did. And it worked very well. But right after, man, they were back cheering for The Rock. You know what I mean? So you have to you got to play that, and I think that's what they're going to play well here. And I think that's what's going on. I think that's the smart money because like I said, I don't think at this point in juncture it's going to be easy for Roman to be booed. Like just short of him maybe punching AJ Lee.
I mean,
and even
in the short term, in the long term, there certainly would be ways to do it if you gave him the belt and then he just did disappear. I think that
but I don't think that's going to happen.
But no, I don't think so either. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, let's switch gears. I know we've been waiting to get here. Some big news coming out of All Elite Wrestling because next week will be a big AEW show. So all you AEW fans out there, all the sickos, I promise you, next week Revolution's right around upon us. We are going to talk a little bit about Revolution, but there's even bigger news, in my opinion, to come out here because AEW has made a signing. 3 in particular. It is noted that the Dogs have signed with All Elite Wrestling. So this was an interesting state of affairs. I mean, we've seen Gabe Kidd quite a bit for AEW. It's not like we haven't seen we've seen all 3 of them there, but think about it. We've seen Gabe almost a roster member. Then you have Clark Connors. And last but not least, the hottest free agent, we both said this, everybody said it in wrestling, David Finlay. And it was kind of really heavily speculated, even us, kind of speculated that Finlay was probably going to look towards WWE. His father's a longtime producer and agent there. His brother is really now coming onto the scene in NXT. So it would have been a real easy fit to go to the family business, but it looks like it doesn't look like it is. That David Finlay has signed with All Elite Wrestling. Now, I'm excited for this. I've always liked the War Dogs. Obviously, Bullet Club War Dogs had finished up. We kind of seen the writing on the wall. We knew that Clark Connors, Gabe Kidd, and David Finlay were all talking about leaving or, cutting down their New Japan dates. I still believe that Gabe Kidd is under a contract with New Japan as well. So isn't Takeshita. So that's not a big,
Yeah,
it's not unusual. But Connors and Finlay were the two where everybody was kind of like, oh, where are those guys going to end up? And now we know. And I think bringing them together, I think just calling them the Dogs is weird. I get they might not be able to call them the War Dogs, but we could have gotten a little something better. But outside of that, I think this is really cool. I think that there's some room, and I'm going to leave the but for you because I know whenever there's a signing in AEW, there's always a but, Sammy.
Well, they're called the Dogs. I guess when they sign Road Dogg, then they'll really be all the Dogs because he can just be the mouthpiece for the group, And that's not a knock on Finlay, but Finlay is a bit of a more. He fits more in AEW than he really does in WWE in the way that he presents himself, the way he goes through his promos and stuff like that. He's not very much the more extreme cartoony side that WWE is. Not to say that all WWE guys are cartoony, but if you look at Trick Williams is very much someone who exudes charisma, and David Finlay's not really that. Yeah, he's just not really that kind of guy, and that's perfectly fine. And sometimes those guys work out really well in WWE, but not always. And going to AEW makes a ton of sense. But what are they going to do with him?
Yeah. I know you always go back to bloated roster, and I agree with you. And that really does make me nervous. You added 3 guys into an already stuffed full roster. Yeah. And it's like
we're with Bullet Club, whatever they are now in there. I mean, like that's another 3-pack group, isn't it? Or
well, there's a Bang Bang Gang.
Bang Bang Gang.
Yeah, change it, Bang Bang Gang. Listen, I wish everybody well. I like everybody in the Dogs. I really do. And I think that they could have gigantic careers. Kind of rebuttal something. I think Finlay would have been fine in WWE. Would he have been a main eventer? I don't know, but I think he would have been fine because I think he has enough character that he can get over anywhere. I think Clark Connors also has a lot of charisma and character. As much as I like Gabe Kidd, though, I don't know if he would ever cross over in WWE. Like he is a badass, but he doesn't have I hate saying it, but he's not very. When you're talking about gimmick, he's not very gimmick entertained, and it has nothing to do against because I'm a big Gabe Kidd fan. But you just look at it, you can't say that. Oh, you look at David Finlay, you look at Clark Connors. Both of them have charisma. Both of them exude confidence. So being a character or a gimmick's easy. I mean, hell, Clark Connors' promo that they had on the internet when he was thinking about joining or whatever, when they just did the tag match, that was like super cool, super like, what did he say? I'm too bad to be a good guy and I'm too pretty to be bad.
Yeah.
It was something like that. It was a great line. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. And nothing against Gabe Kidd, but Gabe Kidd is just an ass kicker. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But like, that's harder to fit into WWE as we know, it really is. But I think overall the better choice for all 3 of these men was in AEW. However, I'm with you. We have to see how they're booked. There's too many people. I hate to say it, we're going to talk about it here in a minute. There's too many people, and I think we're hitting a tipping point. And let's stop early. Let's jump right in. Of course, coming up, I'm going to talk about next week. Sickos Rejoice next week is going to be a lot of AEW because AEW Revolution is next Saturday. And of course, you see the graphic. We all know what's going down. Hangman Adam Page no longer has that belt on his shoulder. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he will be getting a shot at the AEW World Championship in a Texas death match with the caveat that if Hangman Adam Page loses, he can never challenge for the AEW World Championship again. I would like to point out it is the Cody Rhodes stipulation. It is not as long as MJF has the belt. It was said ever again, which scares me. And I'll tell you about that, and we'll talk more about that next week because I think that that's not the important part here. I want to point out, I'm going to bring the graphic back up. Underneath, I put main event issue. We have been on record for probably since November of 2025 as saying that we are impressed and over the moon about the AEW product. It has been better than it has been. I think that 2025, the end of 2025 here into 2026 has been the best time period in AEW outside of 2019 when the company launched. And even into 2020, right?
Yeah.
I think that this is the best time in the company since then. And it could end up being the best overall because we're still going. What I'm about to say has no indication about how well, because let's be honest, let's run down a little bit here. We had a tremendous women's championship match on Dynamite. Tekla, hell of a champion. They ran back with her and Chris Statlander at Revolution. Great title match, great rematch. Good stuff going on. We have the Young Bucks bringing back tag team wrestling as them and FTR, arguably the two greatest tag teams of this generation. Throw the Usos and the New Day in there, I guess, as well. But we're talking about them going back to feud each other with the titles on the line. Awesome. I know we're all about that. Then you have to fast forward and look at all the great matches that are being built. I mean, hell, I'm even excited for Bandito versus Andrade El Idolo. Because that has some really cool lucha match stuff going on with it. But with that being said, Sammy, and I know you have to agree with this, with that being 110% said, boy, did they do a disservice to their main event this past weekend Dynamite.
Yeah.
You have MJF in an opening contest against Kevin Knight, and I love Kevin Knight for the title, not an eliminator, for the belt. It's a pointless match. We know Kevin Knight's not going to win. Good showing, though. Give it to him. Good showing. Then we have Hangman Adam Page in a jobber squash match to then get attacked by the Don Callis family, to then get bullied into a six-man trios title match. So him, Kevin Knight, who's already wrestled the world champion, Speedball Mike Bailey, who other than giving a super kick to MJF is fresh, and then Hangman Page is fresh other than getting beat down by the Don Callis family, taking on Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, and Mark Davis. So Aussie Open back together, if you will, with Okada. Another great tag team that I wish we had going right now in this, because I do have faith that AEW is doing some good tag team work right now. Could bring back tag team wrestling. So I would love to have Aussie Open back, but they're real high on Kyle Fletcher. We'll talk about that another day. I'm sitting back going, we're already enthralled with Hangman Adam Page versus MJF. Two guys who are pillars of this company. Two guys who are the epitome of AEW. They are going to be in a Texas death match. I know, we've seen it before. Hangman Adam Page has done a lot of them. That's fine, right? But it's still stakes because there's history between the two of them. And lastly, there's this extra bit about never getting another title shot ever. Not just as long as MJF is champion, but never again. That'll be it. So you have all this built up. You don't need 2 weeks out. You don't need to add in the Don Callis family. You don't need to add in Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. You don't need to do. They just convoluted it for no reason. Now, did it ruin the main event? No, I don't think it did. But I'm sitting back going, you were hitting home runs and you just grounded out. You had bases loaded and the guy popped out. You had bases loaded with nobody out and the guy does an infield pop. So nobody advances, nobody scores. And this has been the first real misstep, like major misstep from AEW in like 5 months. Am I wrong for feeling that way, or what are your thoughts, Sammy?
Well, first off, you never need to include the Don Callis family in anything ever. But this is an opportunity or a moment or a situation where WWE does things a little bit better because people will show up to work on Monday or Tuesday or Friday and are there for promos. They are there for backstage segments. They are not there for a match. But it feels like AEW always just has to get these guys in a match. It's like if you're showing up here, you got to be in a match. It's like, no, MJF could have just showed up and cut a promo. Hangman Page doesn't have to be involved. Or Hangman Page could have showed up and just cut a promo. He doesn't need MJF involved. Like, that helps continue the story, but it just feels like at times in AEW, the only way to keep moving stories is in ring. And it's like, you don't have to always do it that way. And they do that sometimes. I'm not saying they never do it, but that's like an opportunity to do a little bit more of that and help, continue these stories and continue to build, build character work. So yeah, Don Callis family doesn't need to be involved in anything.
Well, here's the thing. If you really wanted to move the belts to the Don Callis family, that's fine. I have an easier, non-convoluted way to make that happen. It's simple. You just make the 3-on-3 match, the 6-man tag match, and you have MJF use the diamond ring to knock out Hangman Adam Page, and that's what leads to the victory for the Don Callis family. Then you don't have to make it look like there's collusion between MJF and the Don Callis family. It's literally MJF saying, hey, I now took this title from you. And because the next promo he cuts, which would have been on Dynamite, the Go Home Dynamite, is, hey, I took away your 6-man tag title. And guess what's going to happen next? I'm going to take away your ability to ever challenge for this belt again. That's what I'm going to take away from you, cowboy. That's what you put on the line. I'm taking it all because I am the devil. Go back to it's tried and true. I'm taking it all.
Well, he could have even taken it further and said, I'm going to make sure you never win a belt here ever again at anything. That's some good heel work.
Ken M lives. Says, just wait for Don Callis Wolfpack, baby. The black and red. Woo! Oh my God, that's gonna be that'll be something, right? That'll be something.
Why is it that every time someone just in AEW just pitches a fit, there ends up being a match? Like, wait, they need an on-screen authority figure there.
They do, and maybe you're on to something. Maybe he'll be Road Dogg.
He's going to be with the dogs. Road Dogg is going to be the mouthpiece for the dogs.
Oh yes, the dogs. We love the dogs here on on 607 TWS, the wrestling show.
No, he's going to team up with Billy Ass and yeah.
Billy Ass, the badass one, Billy Gunn. I love it.
Well, Danhausen, Billy Ass.
Yeah, well, he's not there anymore. But I do need to see. There was a picture that was I used for the thumbnail of Danhausen with AJ Lee and Pepsi Phil. So I do need Pepsi Phil and Danhausen to come back together. But yeah. Oh, we got another one. They said they should just make it Dustin Rhodes as commissioner. There you go. I'll be all right with that.
There's plenty of other people not doing anything. At least give him that job. Keith Lee.
I mean, there's a ton of people that we go with. But anyways, I digress. We will be talking Sickos Rejoice. As I said, we will be talking all AEW. We'll be talking about other things, but we will be healthily looking at AEW next week as we do break down AEW Revolution, because that comes to you a week from Saturday. But before we get there, we have to end with giving our thoughts on what's going up this Saturday. And of course, this upcoming Saturday from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, NXT Vengeance Day. That's right. I said it. It doesn't look at the graphics, Sammy. It doesn't say WWE Vengeance Day this time. It says NXT Vengeance Day. And that goes down at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday from Orlando, Florida. And I don't know why I'm so excited. It doesn't say WWE for once, but I'm excited about it. Let's talk about the card real quick. Let's do a quick rundown because we are in the overtime. So let's give our rundown for it because I'm going to be honest with you. Lots of gimmick matches that have some stuff built up, but we'll start off with this one. Tony D'Angelo taking on Dion Lennox in a parking lot brawl. Oh boy. Listen, I love me some Tony D. I really do. I even dig this new character and gimmick he's unleashing. But I have been over Retribution 3.0 for a long time. Oh, wait a minute. No, they're called Dark State now, right? Is that what they're called? Somebody give me a quality control check. Your thoughts on this match?
This could really be a fun match, but yeah, it's just hopefully it's the end of it all.
Yes. Next up is a match I'm very excited to see, by the way. In a street fight, we got Blake Monroe taking on Jada Parker. I'm a big Jada Parker fan. I'm a big Blake Monroe fan. And as we found out in AEW, Blake Monroe does a tremendous job in these more hardcore matches. She is a very accomplished wrestler. Take nothing away from her, but yeah. What are your thoughts? Who's walking out of Vengeance Day as the winner, Sammy?
It's been a weird up and down time period for Blake Monroe, but I think she gets back on track here.
So, by the way, Ken did drop something in here. Ken said the most dangerous match in wrestling is the NXT parking lot. So I see he's leaning to that.
This is true.
And he says Parker FTW, and I'm going with you. I don't think a loss hurts Blake Monroe. I think Blake Monroe is almost bulletproof for some reason. I assume she will be going up to that main roster in the not too distant future post WrestleMania, just because she has all of the it factor, and the main roster, especially specifically SmackDown, could use a real solid heel. But Jada Parker also is impressing me a lot. And I think we've only touched the tip of the iceberg of Jada Parker as a babyface. And that's what we're getting. I honestly believe as good as she was a decent heel, but I think she's a born babyface. I think she really is somebody you want to get behind.
Yeah, it's really showing.
Oh, yeah. Next up, speaking of which, by the way, NXT, as we always say, strong on the women's wrestling, because we have 3 women's matches. The second of the 3 women's matches is an NXT Underground match. We're going to get Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan. On the opposite end, Jada Parker, I think she's a natural face. I think Kalani Jordan, who everybody thought was this great baby face, is a natural heel. Maybe it's because Carmelo Hayes is rubbing off on her, but she is a tremendous heel. I'm just throwing it out there. And I think that this Lola Vice is over. Let's be honest. I think this is going to be, I'm never a fan of the underground matches. Let's be honest. But it is Lola Vice's kind of specialty match because of her MMA background. I do get that. I've just never been a fan of them. But I think these two, if you're going to have a good underground match, these two are going to do it. Your thoughts, Sammy?
No, I agree. I'm not a huge fan of the gimmick stipulation, but I think these two can really make it work.
Yeah, agreed. I didn't give a pick. I'm sorry. I am going to actually go with Kalani Jordan in the upset, because I think Kalani Jordan needs a big heel win. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, I'll support that.
Next up, speaking of women's matches, the NXT Women's North American Championship is on the line, and this is a grudge match as your NXT Women's North American Champion Izzy Dame takes on the woman she stabbed in the back to get that title, former champion Tatum Paxley. There's a lot of stuff to be done there. Sammy, who's leaving Orlando, the NXT Women's North American Champion?
Izzy. Yeah.
I want Tatum Paxley to win. I really do. But I think you're right. I think Izzy Dame is going to walk out with that belt. Just throwing it out there. By the way, Ken M pointed out, shout outs to Shayna Baszler making an appearance on NXT this week. Yeah, that's right. Shayna's come back a couple times now. Good stuff. Jordan wins, so Lola goes up after Mania. I agree. I can agree with that. I can smell what the Rock's one. Of course, Ken M also says Tatum Paxley, hopefully. I'm also going for Tatum. I love me some Tatum Paxley. I really do. Former NXT Women's Champion. It's a good day.
This is true.
Speaking of NXT championships, the main event of the evening is the NXT championship match. Your champion, the man that Ken is rejoicing right now, the man that we all believe in, Joe Hendry. He is taking on former NXT champion Ricky Saints. This is an interesting matchup. I think Ricky Saints has a lot to prove in this match. I understand he's a former champion, but I feel like if I was Ricky Saints, hear me out. I know that online they portray things in a different way. I don't think he's a professional, but I think if I was Ricky Saints, I would look at the fact that Joe Hendry has come in and taken all your fire. The spot you should have is Joe Hendry's spot, because Joe Hendry is undeniably an entertaining pro wrestler. I think I look at the fact that Danhausen, not crapping on Danhausen, by the way, Danhausen debuted straight on to the main roster. Royce Keys debuted straight on to the main roster. Ready for this? Royce Keys was in a little group with Taz and Ricky Saints. So there's history there. And I see that's where Ken's going in the chat. But yeah, if I'm Ricky Saints, and I'm not saying he should be bitter, because I don't, and some people will take that. Don't be bitter. Just go out there and show why you should be on the main roster, why you should be the face of NXT, why you should be the guy getting the opportunities, because that's what wrestling is about. You can be happy for your friends, because I'm sure that him and Royce Keys are friends in real life. I'm sure that him and Joe Hendry have nothing wrong between them. And we know that Ricky Saints is really good friends with Cody Rhodes, and that is fine. You can have all of that. However, when push comes to shove, you have to go out there and get business done. And I'm going to say this. Ricky Saints, partly due to booking, but mostly due to himself and not taking advantage and grasping moments, has been the reason why he's not in the spot he should be in NXT. Because much like we talked about LA Knight after Unreal came out, kind of dropping the ball with, the air quotes, and even in the Elimination Chamber match, the botch getting more of the things. I feel like that's happened with Ricky Saints. He had some lackluster matches when he was NXT champion, hence why he's not the face of the company. Hence why they had to go back. They were already supposed to be moving Trick Willie out, and they had to go back to Trick Willie in your main event slot. Right? I feel like this is the time where Ricky Saints needs to grab that brass ring. He has to go out there. He has to have one hell of a match. We know Joe Hendry is going to bring the entertainment. And Joe Hendry's a great dance partner. He's had good. I think people overlook his wrestling ability, but he has great matches with guys. Yes. And I think Ricky Saints needs that great match. Your thoughts, Sammy?
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head here, because if you look at the state of the NXT roster on the men's side of things, it's pretty barren. It really has, because a lot of guys that were there, this time last year, they are firmly on the main event on the main roster. Trick Williams, the aura of Trick Williams, he's not going back to NXT. Obafemi, he's not going back to NXT. These guys are up there. If you look at a guy like Javon Evans, he's not going back down there. So, it's time. It's time. Even if you look at like an Ethan Page, he's going to stay down there.
He's on his way.
He's on his way up, though. Like he is. It's really a matter of like, Ricky, you need to do your job down here so that Ethan Page can go up. It's at that point, where it's like, you need to take the ball and run with it. This is your opportunity to be the guy that you say that you are. The guy that we saw brief, glimpses of in AEW. The guy where you had all the energy, you had all the fire, you had the promo work, you had everything. So here it is. Here's your shot right here. Go for it.
I'm glad you said that about Ethan Page. I have the same feeling. I think Ethan Page is still in NXT because they need a star.
Yeah.
And I understand it's weird to say that about the guy who's not the world champion, but he's the guy that people tune in to see. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely, and we can get there. Joe Hendry is that star, but you need more than just that one guy. Like, look at the women's division down there. The women's division down there, you can move pieces up like we're talking about, because there's so much talent and there's so many young women that are ready to take more talent. And I just don't see that on the men's side. And some of that is the fault of the company and the booking.
Yes.
And some of that is the fault of the performers. And I think in the case of a Ricky Saints, and I love Ricky Saints, I think Ricky Saints / Ricky Starks is a great wrestler. He's a total package wrestler, with a 5-tool, a 5-tool guy, if you will, whatever you want to call it. I think he's all of those things, but I think he just has not lived up to the hype and the build and what he can do. And you're right. And I think that I was right as well. I think that he needs to do that. Ken M did say Hendry wins and attacked after by Royce Keys. I think I wouldn't be surprised. It would be kind of sad for me to see Royce Keys there, because I feel like they kind of have already groomed him to be on the main roster. They put him in the Stephanie McMahon interview to make him, to get people to know him. They debuted him at the Rumble. And once again, I fear what Sammy was just saying. I think if Royce Keys ends up in NXT, it's because they're scared that there's no star power. Yep. The same reason Ethan Page is still down there would be the same reason Royce Keys goes there, because I don't think the original plan was for Royce Keys to be down there. I think he was going to be in that secondary. I hate calling it secondary, but like that U.S. title hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that they really have faith, because look at him. He looks like $1 million. He's a big jack dude.
They even went as far as in his debut to say, "This is Powerhouse Hobbs. This is Royce Keys." Like that. That was massive to establish him on the main roster. You know, a big thing. Could he go down there and tear it
Yeah.
up and be amazing? Of course, he's a pro.
He can be
He's a
the star.
pros pro. He'd be the star. But that doesn't really help the situation. It's Ricky's time to be the star.
Mhm. I agree. I think that Ricky Saints needs to grab the brass ring, quite frankly.
Yes,
And like I
he
said,
could do
nothing
that in a
against.
loss. Yeah, he can
Oh
do
yeah,
that in a loss.
absolutely. He just needs to show that he can be the 5-tool player that he should be. He just needs to show that he can be who he should be, and not, there's a lot of guys that have been, in my opinion. And once again, I will say this: I will blame. It's not all on the guy. There's some on the booking. As much as we like to say Shawn Michaels does a great job, he does. But you know what? You miss. Sometimes you miss. But I think there's a lot on the performer as well. There's a reason like Lexus King should be in a bigger spot than he is, with the pedigree that he has, with the charisma that he has, with the talent that he has. My thing is, you have to go out and grab it. You know what I mean? Every opportunity. I always say, if you are a young wrestler in this current age, I'm not talking about overall, because I can give you a list of people you should watch and study and everything. But right now, if you want to know how to get over, you know who you watched? Go back to a year ago and watch Chelsea Green. Or 2 years ago, where she would get a 30-second, a minute spot on Raw or SmackDown, and she would steal the show with that minute. Not wrestling. Every time she was on the screen, she made you want to see Chelsea Green, to the point that the crowd made her the first ever women's United States champion. And if you don't believe that, there's the reason she has that belt was because that crowd was cheering for her and would not take any other champion.
Yep.
That is why. And then when she got the ball, she ran with it. She's had some bad luck injuries. I will say that. But even with the bad luck injuries, she's a pro's pro. She does all the appearances. She does all the work outside the ring. And then inside, whenever she gets a camera on her, she's going to win. She's going to make sure it takes it. And I think a lot of people get like, oh, I just have a backstage segment that's 30 seconds or a minute long, and they just go through the motions. Chelsea Green showed everybody that all you have to do is steal the moment. You know who else did it? And I understand they're not with the company anymore, but it is what it was. There's a reason people were chanting for Karrion Kross. And it wasn't 1.5 5. It was because every time he was on camera, even though we didn't know what the hell the gimmick was because the company didn't have a direction for him, he still stole the moment. That is how you get over. And then somebody could argue, but Rich, that's how you end up without a job. Yeah, well, he's making some pretty good money right now, isn't he?
Well, and then on the flip side for Ricky, you have the opportunity also to really shine in the in-ring. And how you do that is you do the things you do and you do them well. You do them clean, you crisp. You don't go, this is not the night to go out there and try and reinvent the wheel. You get your stuff in and you do it clean. And number two, you bump and sell. You bump and sell. Selling, every time we watch listen to any sort of podcast, any sort of interview with anyone, what's the first thing they say about how to make it in wrestling? Sell. Look at, there's a reason why Javon Evans was just in the main event of Elimination Chamber, because the kid sells his ass off. Trick Williams, believe it or not, sells his ass off. Yep.
Like, there's a reason he says, you know who, and I know some people hate this person,
Tiffy.
but I enjoy
Tiffy's
it.
another great example.
Tiffy, we talked about that. We said that earlier. Sold their ass off. And you know who some people do not like, and I get it, I understand, and I'm not going to jump in, but I think he's tremendous in the ring, Logan Paul. And what does Logan Paul do? Logan Paul has some exciting moves, but watch, he sells. Like, he makes every move look what it's supposed to. The art of selling is amazing. There's a famous story from the past of a friend of the show, personal friend of mine, Colin Delaney, when he got signed to WWE. And I understand if people who remember, they'll all say about how, he was just a job guy. That's fine. He was still featured on TV every day for 9 months. That should tell you something. But the reason he got that job, well, there's a longer reason. Someday I might talk about it. But when he got his first initial match, which was a Shelton Benjamin Open Challenge, is because Vince McMahon sat in the back at the monitors and was yelling to anybody who would hear in Gorilla, "That's how you sell. That's how you take a punch. That's how you sell." the name of the game isn't just to get your shit in, which you should.
You should.
Also, part of getting your shit in is making your opponent look like $1 million. I mean, everybody thought that what Tom McGee could wrestle because Bret Hart had a match with him, and found out the guy couldn't wrestle just because Bret Hart was him.
Yeah, well, it's you know, we talk about John Cena with the 5 moves of doom. It's like there's really 6, and the 6th one is selling.
Yeah,
selling.
Yeah.
It's a move. Do it.
It is. It is. I mean, I think of guys who have made an art form out of something. Ric Flair, arguably one of the greatest of all time. If he's not the greatest, he's still in the conversation. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Think about it. He has moves that he does that are him selling. The Flair flop, that's him selling. The rocket launch from the top rope, that's him selling. Like, there was moves that he had that he was selling, not even offensive moves. That should tell. What do we remember? Rob Van Dam taking the DDTs on top of his head and making it look like he's like getting killed out there was phenomenal. Selling. Just sell. I know you're with that. I know we're all with that, but I digress. We'll be watching Vengeance Day this weekend, and we'll be talking about it next week here on 607 TWS, as well as, like I keep saying, Sickos Rejoice. Next week it will be the AEW Revolution preview show, and I'm gonna bury the lead here. This is the most excited I've been for an AEW pay-per-view in a long time. I am going into this at the highest of highs.
Agreed. Everyone, I know we poo-pooed a little bit on Dynamite, but yes, we are very excited about AEW and their product, and we're very excited to break this down.
We poo-pooed on the main event scenario on Dynamite, because everything else I thought was tremendous. I thought this was
true.
Was
otherwise,
really
the show was incredibly solid. Yeah, no, that's very true. But
incredible.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Trust me.
Next week, sickos. Trust me. When you're like, oh, you guys didn't say, we understand. We were heavy on WWE this week because they just came off of a PLE. There's a lot of news. We're on the road to WrestleMania, but don't you fret. We got Revolution, as Ken said in the chat. Viva la Revolution! That's right. We're there. We're gonna be there. Maybe we'll even bring out the Guy Fawkes mess. I'm just throwing it out there. Who knows? But anyways, with that being said, you can find us here next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we are each and every week. And of course, you can find the place that powers all of this by clicking on that QR code and going over to fanlightzone.com, the home of comics and pop culture, and that includes pro grappling. And until myself and Miss Sammy see you next week here on YouTube or Twitch or X, wherever you watch us live, or if you're watching the replay, drop those comments and everything else. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And most importantly, later wrestling fans.